population. And since these cells are flow in the systemic circulation and is the actual cause of the disease, makes us to focus our interest in liquid biopsies and circulating tumors. Not only us, all the scientists around the world. This is the reason why liquid biopsy becomes very, very important to us. Because it's practically impossible to find this tiny proportion of cells in commonly appeared cells in the primary tumor. And the second and more scary, this process of migration takes place really early. Already when the tumor is 0.2 millimeters in diameter, you already have dissemination. So this means 0.2 millimeters in diameter, which means that practically you cannot see the tumor. Already you have dissemination in microcolonies. So can someone tell me how we say that the disease is local when we already have microcolonies? So we have at the end, except the Fisher theory, which has been presented to us in the beginning of 80s on breast carcinoma, that cancer disease should be considered as systemic from day one. Simple as that. So we have to deal it as a systemic disease, not like local excise, that's it, go home. So just to have an understanding, these are the methodologies that are used in clinical practice. So they can detect, in best case, this is an optimal scenario, a lump which may consist in 10 in the 9th cells. This is approximately half a centimeter. So you are talking about 1 billion of cells that you miss. Hello. Large number of cells, don't you think? So are we focusing on the wrong type of cancer? The answer is yes and no. We simply see something much, much bigger of what we actually should see at the end. Well, the heterogeneity makes cancer very difficult to us, because we do not deal with one entity in our clinical practice. So we deal with multiple subpopulations, and the more the disease progressing, the more the heterogeneity becomes more plural. And we need to apply multi-level analysis if we want to achieve something in order to stratify our patients on responders and non-responders to specific therapeutic concepts. This is what is actually personalized medicine, not what we are doing so far. Well, CTCs. This is the entity that we need to focus our interest, simply because the larger proportion of them actually carries tumor initiative properties. And these cells are called cancer stem cell lines. Well, and again, someone thinks we have the primary, cells are driving, are flowing in the circulation, goes to a distant organ and creates a metastasis. By far not true. The process is much more complex. From the primary tumor, we have dissemination of tumor cells. And these cells are actually, most of the time, they are going to organs which they can stay there without forming a metastasis. And these organs are called depositors. Such organs could be the bone marrow, the liver, the spleen. The cells will stay there, they will stay dormant. And they will receive the influence of several growth factors, which means that they prepare to become more aggressive, more resistant, and they start to interact with the normal cells, and together they reseed the circulation. For example, there are bone marrow derived monocytes and fibroblasts, which they migrate together with the disseminated tumor cells, and they form the primary niche, the primary microcolony. So as you can understand, metastasis is a process which normal cells equally involved there. And imagine that we actually today miss the detection of this process. So all our clinical decision is taken without consider that there is dissemination and there are circulated tumor cells in a patient. And actually we may say that someone is cancer-free despite the fact that he or she may carry these cells. Well, and what is the relationship between the primary, the metastases, and the circulated tumor cells? From the genomic point of view, there are plenty of articles which proves that their DNA is practically almost identical. So mutations doesn't play much of a role there. But how it's possible? You have a metastasis and you have the primary, and when you treat your patient, you expect that since they have the same genetic material, they should behave the same. So wrong again. Actually, you may have, let's say, a breast carcinoma case, which is hormone sensitive, which means that the disease is progressing due to the presence of estrogens. And then you have metastases in the brain or somewhere else, which actually doesn't behave like hormone sensitive. And both kind of cells, they have the same genome. How they are so different? The answer is that the gene expression is altered. So actually the mechanism which regulates the expression of gene is different between the primary and the secondary. So the hormone receptor is expressed on the primary, and on the metastases has been switched off. So this makes the two entities behave completely different. But what is the relationship of the middleman, the CTCs, is that it carries both entities' features. Primary and metastases, primary and metastases. And this is from the epigenetic point of view and from the genomic point of view. So this makes them even more important, because if we want to treat a patient, we don't want to treat only the primary, we want to treat as well as the possible secondaries. The same. Well, hoorah! We conclude that we have to deal with the driving mechanism, the driving cause of the disease, circulating tumor cells. But how you're going to find them? That was the first challenge when we deal at the beginning of our career. Because how you're going to find 10 to 30 cells per 50,000 events, per 50,000 white blood cells? This means if you multiply it with 5 times the 6 million RBCs, it means that you deal with 10 to 30 cells per 30 million cells. So you're looking really a needle in a haystack. And not only that, you need to find these cells, and have them pure, so you do not have any irrelevant cells at the end. Have them viable, have all the subsets of them, find which is the cancer stem cell like, and define them. So these are the criteria in order to do really a proper job. And here is a short video just to show you in a simplistic manner what are the approaches that exist so far? I'll do that. Okay. This is the positive selection. It means that we make the assumption that the cells appear the specific membrane antigen, but we actually miss those who doesn't carry it. Negative selection means that we take out all the unwanted cells, and then whatever remains are the CDCs. In older times we use the size isolation protocol, so we allow the cells to be selected with the assumption that the disseminated tumor cells are bigger than the blood cells. But actually, this is not true, so we miss the smaller cells. And also we actually destroy the cells simply because we push them hard to pass from so small pores and holes. The microscopy-based method is really good, accurate, but you have to immobilize your cells. You need to kill them in order to stain them. And the PCR-based method, it's a positive selection method. So you do not expect that all cells will appear the antigen or that you assume that it should be there. So this makes more than obvious that negative selection is the best option so far. But it's not easy. You have to get rid of really big number of cells, and you need to make it on multi-staging. Because let's say that you're going to do that in a mechanical way, you're going to destroy the cells as well. So choosing the right method is critical. For the time being, the only golden standard method of identifying circulating tumor cells is the cell search protocol, which is a positive selection method with the assumption that the cells carry an EpCAM antigen on the surface. But as you saw, you actually miss the cells that they don't carry it. This is a typical microscopy-based method, fluorescent one, but all these cells are dead. You cannot culture them, you cannot analyze them further. This is a combination of gradient and beads, again with the same problems. PCR-based method, which at the end you conclude with DNA or RNA, so you don't have cells anymore to work with. And even though, that's to show you the rationale, because we shouldn't be impressed always by big words and impressive advertising. PCR is really a good method, it's really accurate. But in rare events, as are the CDCs, you have really a small amount of primary RNA to work with. So you have to pre-amplify it. You need to multiply it randomly. Immediately, this means that you are altering the expression rates from the laboratory perspective, from the real expression rate that exists in the patient. And this has been proven by experiments, which we did the PCR with amplification, with pre-amplification and without. And if the method was accurate, we should take the same fingerprinting. But we didn't. We actually altered the outcome. So it's a relative, it's really good and sensitive method, but not appropriate to use it for CDCs. That sounds very scientific, but what that means in clinical practice, we received samples from patients that they have been, let's say, took the label as cancer patients simply because they found circulating tumor cells on the periphery. Fine, but here it says that they found cytokeratins positive cells. It means that they use a positive selection method. Imagine, nothing is perfect in clinical practice. When you take a blood from a patient, you do have cells that they come from the inner lumen of the vessels, which are epithelial as well. They are epithelial origin. So they carry the same antigen but also the malignant cells carrying cytokerins. When we take out the endothelial cells, the same patient comes with 0 circulating tumor cells. Practically means that wrongly we put a label and a diagnosis of cancer to someone who didn't carry the disease. Can you understand how critical this is? Because if we decide to make a treatment decision, we're going to treat a healthy individual. It's at least unethical.